Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome Tuesday question and answer session. Tonight we have Rita, my wife, and myself. Took permission of our Shaykh, Shaykh Ansari and Shaykh Muzeyyen Ansari. And without any ado, we went to
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of the most merciful, the most compassionate. All knowledge of God belongs to you and not to us. Please send your peace and blessings upon your Prophet Muhammad and his family, and upon all your saints and prophets and their families. Amen. Something that we want to do, or to even not to think something that we might have in our mind, the sense of righteous justice or righteous anger, but rather choosing a way that is more gentle, choosing a way that is more loving and filled with more of Allah's wisdom and Allah's mercy in our behavior and actions. The surrendering to action is accepting that Allah has created us for a purpose, each and every one of us. He has shared his attributes in different proportions. With some he's given more of this, some he's given more of that. And whatever guidance and teaching and nurturing and nourishing that Allah has given us, he's given us to us in a unique way. There is no one alike in his creation. We have the same capacities and potentials, irrespective of where we were born or how we were born. We may not have the same physical prowess or the same opportunities depending on how we are and who we are, to be whatever we want, but we can be whatever Allah wants us to be, and determining and trying to establish what is it that Allah wants from us. And Allah doesn't want us to suffer. Allah didn't create us just for hardship or just for experiencing incompleteness or just for having things removed or taken away from us. Allah has created us with love, with nourishment, with sustenance, and He's given a proportion of our due at each stage of our life. Each and every one of us. The fact that we are alive is thanks to Allah. The fact that we are living, the fact that we have food, we have air, we have water, is all because of Allah. And when we're looking at each and every one of us in Allah's creation, Allah has also created them and us for a purpose. So our looking, our relationships, our work, our jobs, our training, our education, is Allah being so generous with us. And Allah wants for us to have a relationship with Him. Allah is longing for us to follow His guidance, to be as He wanted us to be. Sometimes we doubt and we fear and we wonder or contemplate if we're worthy. The fact that we're alive means that we're worthy of knowing Allah and having a relationship with Allah and doing what Allah wants from us. There are times where it's easier to connect and establish and know what is the right action, the right behavior, the right moment for us to do something or to engage with someone or to relate to someone or to do something that's specifically what Allah wants. It doesn't mean that we always get things right. It doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. But the fact that we're asking Allah, we're praying to Allah, we're making dua, we're asking for His assistance to do what He wants us to do. And some of us don't discover a big life purpose or a big life plan or a big job. As our Shaykh says to us, some of us, our job is just to literally be a doorknob, just to be something with which a door can be opened. But even a doorknob Allah has created for a purpose. We don't have to all be teachers or sheikhs or healers or lawyers or whatever it is that we think is valuable in life. We don't all have to be doctors and lawyers. Allah may need, as I heard Shaykh once say to one of the myriads, someone may want to be a musician, but Allah may need postmen in that area. So there might be an abundance of musicians in one place, but what's really needed is a postman, meaning we don't know at any given time what Allah can do through us. And so our job is to get out of the way. And the getting out of the way is really not just listening to our loves, but trying to establish through Rabita, through prayer, through contemplation, through the guidance, through the Quran, what is it that Allah wants us to do from moment to moment? The more we can remember Allah and wonder about Allah and think about Allah gives us the space to at least intend to do things for Allah's sake. Whether we're going into a supermarket and choosing what to buy, or choosing what food to eat, or whether we're choosing whether to go left or right when we're going for a walk in the park, we can also check, where does Allah want me to go? Who does Allah want me to see? What does Allah want me to do? And will Allah be pleased with this action? So the surrendering is not a one-off surrender. It's from moment to moment. And surrendering also means taking things on for Allah's sake. It sometimes means doing things that you might not want to do, or you might not feel that you're capable of doing, or qualified of doing, or even worthy of doing. But if Allah wants to do this through you, our job is to surrender. Awallah. The saying of Awallah, as you wish, as Allah wishes, acknowledging Allah in the moment, in the action, and all good belongs to Allah, all praise belongs to Allah, and we acknowledge that we are not praiseworthy, we are incomplete, but the fact that we are existing, as does everyone else, this means that we are precious to creation, we're precious to the people around us, we matter to our families, we matter to our communities, we matter to the people we come into contact with. And every action, every moment we're doing something or saying something is being recorded. Although we're only really responsible for what we're doing, we have opportunities to do good. We have opportunities, thanks to Allah, to be of service, even to smile, to be kind, to be soft. Also, there are moments where it may be necessary to get out of the way and give a message that comes to our heart, or to try and save someone, or respect someone, or help someone with their dignity, or help someone in need for Allah's sake. Because Allah is helping us at all times, whether we see it or acknowledge it or not. The fact that we want Allah is a blessing. The fact that those who are studying Sufism or other religious paths, they also know that we've been called literally to know Allah and relate to Allah and to live the life that Allah wants for us. And living the life for Allah that Allah wishes for us is also a life filled with Allah's love, with Allah's beauty, with Allah's kindness, with Allah's knowledge, with Allah's sustenance, even in the food we have, in the places that we go to. All of this is a set and a stage for us to engage in this act of remembrance and worship and contemplation of our Creator. Our job is also to keep hope. If we're trying to surrender and if we're failing, if we're making mistakes and are struggling to surrender to what is right, surrender what is possible that Allah has given us, or surrender with the responsibilities and the duties that Allah has given us, we also need to keep hope that Allah hears our prayers. Allah wants us to succeed in what He wants for us. So even if we're incomplete, even if we're turning away, even if we're failing, we can keep hope. because Allah also gives us this hope. Allah is Rahman and Rahim amongst all of his other names and attributes. And in the moments of hardness, in the moments of suffering, we can look to that love, to look to that mercy and compassion, and hope for Allah's relief, Allah's help, and Allah's healing in whatever situation he puts us in. It's sometimes good to check, are we adding love to the world? Are we adding to Allah's manifestation of love through his creation? Or are nafs in the way that are blocking our heart and preventing us from doing what is kind, what is good, what is soft, what is helpful? And if that is the case, we need to take our nafs to task. We shouldn't be showing mercy on our own nafs. There are times where, like admonishing a child or correcting a student in their behavior at school, we have to tell them, we have to show them that there is another way, there is a better way, that this behavior is not respectful, it's not the right thing to do. And we need to do this with as much a proportion as what is needed at that moment, being careful to be kind and to do things for Allah's sake. It's all too easy to go around comparing the world to our own idea of justice or our own idea of good behavior or good actions. And with this, we can burden one another, we can make their moment in life seem harder and more difficult. So it's really best to start with ourselves, to start with what we can have an effect on. And what we can do is something about ourselves. And this means being open to the truth, being open to Allah showing us the reality of how we are. And life is teaching us, Allah is teaching us. We're finding all kinds of difficulties or problems or squeezes in our life, as well as relief, that show us that we are not in charge, that we have nafs and we need to do something about them. And the needing to do something about them sometimes means literally taking ourselves by the scruff of the neck and saying enough. Stop bothering me, nafs. It's no time to be in the way of my relationship with Allah, our relationship with doing what is right, doing what is pleasing. And the objections that we have, and the doubts that we have, and the judgments that we have, these nafs all get in the way. And so part of surrendering is at least making the intention to learn, to be open to the truth, to give up this judgment, to give up this need to be superior or inferior or knowledgeable or whatever issue that we may be facing at any moment of our life that either repels or attracts to us, irrespective of what we're experiencing. The surrendering to the action that is right, the saying no to the nafs, stop bothering me, stop saying this, stop thinking this. Our job is to keep bringing our attention to Allah. When we're thinking about Allah, when we're saying Allah's names, when we're wondering what Allah wants from us, it's a much happier, more peaceful state than choosing to descend to wherever our nafs are pulling, or to pay attention to the dogs that are barking, or to pay attention to our greed, to our anger, to our lust, to our revenge, whatever nafs are bothering us, and saying, no, I want Allah instead. I want to find a way when we're talking like this to ourselves, when we're telling ourselves to bring our focus and attention back, no matter how much we're pulled over and over again, keep longing and looking and choosing and surrendering and being with Allah, so that our nafs get weary, so our nafs are worn down, so our nafs don't bother us as much. As we choose Allah more with our attention, more with our actions, more with our prayers, more with our contemplations, it becomes easier to recognize what is nafs and what are the actions and the attributes that are of Allah. And when we see Allah doing things through us, we need to remember that it is thanks to Allah doing these things through us. It is thanks to Allah teaching us and guiding us, and it's thanks to the people praying for us and looking after us and serving us and helping us that we can do any good at all for Allah's sake. Because if it was up to us, we would be in darkness, we would be lost, we would be just with ourselves in a state of continual frustration, continual unhappiness and resentment and anger. But at least having a relationship with Allah, wanting to know Allah, gives us some respite from ourselves. It gives us a break from a place that creates stress, creates suffering through our own states, our own thinking, our own reactions, our judgments of how we want things to be and how we think they should be. There's always a place for repentance. There's always a place for asking Allah to forgive us for our mistakes, apologizing to one another when we hurt one another, knowingly or unknowingly. There's room for overlooking other people's flaws and mistakes and incompleteness. It's really hard to love someone unless we're continually choosing to forgive them for Allah's sake, to look over their flaws and incompleteness, and by the same token to be loved by others, because we are also incomplete. We also bother someone with our behavior and actions. People also have to put up with us and cope with us. Just because we see what others are doing doesn't mean that others can't also see what we're doing. If we're only focusing on the outer things in the world, we can't see people's beautiful natures as well, because Allah has given each and every one of us, some of His balance of attributes, and some of His beauty, and some of His love, and some of His mercy, and His beautiful names. So He hasn't just given us nafs, and our job is to look and to see this for Allah's sake. It doesn't mean not seeing the truth or observing Allah in action, observing Allah's creation in action, observing Allah. It just means acknowledging Allah in each situation, in each person, in each task that we've been given. And the surrendering is to those actions, to that love, to that way of looking and observing and appreciating and enjoying and relating and living and breathing and walking and working and enjoying Allah. Because our job is to enjoy Allah and have this relationship with Allah and to experience this life in a way that we're making the most of this opportunity through gratitude, through service, through actions, and especially through being loving. Inshallah, may Allah make it easier for all of us to surrender from moment to moment, to know Allah, to seek Allah's forgiveness, and to be of service to Allah for Allah's sake, to enjoy Allah and to observe Allah.
Thank you. Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Just to extend a little bit about what Tariqa just mentioned, we all have been created with nafs, brain, a heart, but also we all have been given the connection to Allah, and this connection is being given to us even before we came in this world. There's a reference in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about assembling all the spirits, and Allah asked them, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And they all reply and say, yes, indeed you are. Qalu bala. So from that moment, that connection was established. Allah didn't send us here without that. Allah is merciful and generous. He sent messengers, prophets, books, reminders of that moment, of that connection. And again, if we look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I created jinns and human beings so that they may connect and devote themselves to me, to Allah. So as we see again from this, that the purpose of our creation, the only purpose, really the main purpose of our existence in this world is to connect to Allah. This is why Aqimus Salat is mentioned over and over again in the Holy Quran, and our Shaykh translation of Aqimus Salat is to establish, to connect to the already established connection, to jump into that connection. That's the latest definition of Aqimus Salat. And Allah has already established that for us. And our job is to jump into the wagon. And as I said earlier, before, at the beginning, that we are given akal, brain, we are given heart, and also nafs. And these three play a major part for us to connect to Allah. And Rita has talked a lot about the nafs just now. Nafs is the opposite of Allah. And if we do everything against the nafs, we are getting closer to Allah. We are doing what is pleasing to Allah. And the school that teaches how to take care of the nafs, that is a bigger jihad, like the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the hadith. So the school that enroll us for that bigger jihad is what we call Sufism. And at the lower level, the nafs amara and nafs lawama, that the nafs that dominate us. If we fight back, if we, with the help of a Shaykh and Zikr, we are able to tame the nafs and get closer to Allah this way and get into that Aqimus Salat connection. And with Aql, Allah wants us to use our intelligence that we acquire through Ilm al-Yaqeen, meaning studying, learning books. We all do, right from the school time. And Ain al-Yaqeen through observation and detection as we become more mature, advanced. So through these two, we are able to make the decision that we need to know Allah, learn Allah, acknowledge, praise Allah and love Allah, willingly, lovingly, and without any force. So that's the part, the brain play that Allah wants us to use for in connecting back to Him. And the last one is the heart. Allah talk about a pure heart in the Quran when Allah says in Surah Ash-Shu'ara that on this day neither your wealth nor your children will be able to help you except one who brings a pure heart to Allah. So the process of purifying ourselves is also what Rita has been talking about. This is what Allah wants. And when we have a purified heart, and through Haqq al-Yaqeen, the third way that Allah teaches us, we are able to establish a meaningful communication with Allah, and again we can connect to Allah. So to summarize what our Shaykh taught us, as a Sufi, we have to always watch out for the sign of Allah through all our senses, our in and outer senses. And secondly, all our actions, our ibadah, our service, it has to be meaningful, it has to be truthful, it has to be with consciously, it has to be with love, not by force, and especially not by habitual action. We are not after habitual action, because Allah is after mature, sincere devotees. Allah is looking in our action, the sincerity behind it. So we need to do it with love, consciously and willingly. May Allah help us all to attain that level and understanding and act with maturity and consciousness. Amen.
So if anyone would like to add any comments or thoughts on surrender or anything we've talked about, or Sufism, you're welcome. You're welcome to type in the chat.
I don't know where to look at the questions.
That's true.
I don't know where to look at the question. If I'm missing any question or comment, please forgive us. Maybe next week, or if you have a question, we can, when Shaykh come back, inshallah, we can ask a question to Shaykh. If there is nothing, then now we, inshallah, will close the session tonight. Thank you all for joining us. May Allah accept your presence. And we end up again with saying Fatiha. Shukran ya Allah, shukran ya Rasulullah, shukran ya Ali Waliyullah, shukran ya Shaykh Abdul Qadiri, ya Shaykh Ahmad Rifai, ya Shaykh Abdullah Hashmi, ya Shaykh Muhammad Ansari, ya Shaykh Muzeyyen Ansari, ya Shaykh Ansari, and Shaykh Muzeyyen Ansari. Al-Fatiha. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum. See you Friday, inshallah, for our zikr. Same time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.